Yesterday, May 8th, 2025, jury came back deadlocked. There was a mistrial for the trial of former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Shore. Let me ask you something. As a parent, how many times are you going to tell your kids stop before you have to take it to the next level? A spanking or grounding or separating them from fighting each other. If you're a small business owner or a shift supervisor or a manager, how many times are you going to give a lawful command to your people to stop or to whatever before you have to take it to the next level? Fire somebody, write them up, suspend someone. Well, here in this case, there was a mistrial, and what's really disappointing is that a whole bunch of clergy have come forward disappointed that there was a mistrial, and they strongly believe Chris should have been convicted of murder. If Mr. Leola had just simply stopped, if he had had enough character and integrity and civil-mindedness and just simply stopped resisting, let go of and stop fighting over the taser, let go of the taser, he would be alive today. Chris was a police officer for 6 years prior to this incident. He had had encounters with many black people many times. And do you know why they ended safely and those people went home safe? Because none of them convinced Chris that his life was in danger by their actions or behavior until Mr. Leola. This was not a black racial thing. I know the other side was trying to make it a black racial thing to the point that they did not let the jury know that he had done several missionary trips, as I recall, several missionary trips to Kenya, and he and his wife made a point of getting married in Kenya in a native ceremony. They did not want the jury to hear that. They're trying to make it a black racial thing. But again, he had had a lot of contact with blacks through the 6 years that he was a police officer, and in his record is not one complaint of excessive force or discourtegy or anything like that. This clergy, this bunch of churches that have come forward disappointed. It's really disappointing because I think they would do better and serve the community better if, number one, it's several things. If, number one, they actually preach the gospel, beginning with the books in Romans chapter 13 and 1 Peter chapter 2, where we are admonished and instructed to submit to lawful authority. And Christopher Shore at the time was a lawful authority. And he made a lawful traffic stop, and he was lawfully asking for ID. And when the man did not produce ID, he was in violation of the law. And as per our duty as law enforcement officers, we are supposed to take such persons into custody and either take them to jail or at least write them a ticket. And when someone starts to fight or run, it's our job, our duty to make an effort to apprehend said persons. And Chris got into a very short foot chase with the individual and tackled him. But unfortunately, this individual was much bigger, stronger, heavier than Chris, and for 3 minutes straight. One of the complaints that I hear, one of the comments I hear from people is, there was a moment in the video where Chris is on top of the driver for a brief moment. But here's the thing, and here's what people say. Well, he was on top of Mr. Leola, so he was in control. And I look at these people and I say this: even an elementary school wrestler would tell you that being on top doesn't necessarily mean you're in control. Yes, that's an advantageous position. Yes, that's a superior position to be in as you work towards gaining compliance and control. But just because you're on top in the moment does not mean you're in control. And heck, if you look at the video, you can see Mr. Leola lifting himself off the ground with Chris on his back, and both of Chris's feet are off the ground, flailing in the wind, just like you see in the cartoons. There was nothing about that moment that would even let anyone who knows what they're seeing and has any actual experience in wrestling would there's nothing about that moment that would let anyone think that Chris had any actual control in that moment. And certainly there was zero compliance from the driver. And up to that moment, he had been told already to stop 7 times, let go of the stop resisting 4 times, and to let go of the taser once. At any moment, at any one of those moments, lawful commands, had this man just simply complied, he would be alive today. And based on his record, he knows he would have just spent a few hours at jail, paid $100 bond, and he would have been out. Bada boom, bada bing.